Welcome to the Porn Reboot podcast, where you get practical tips to gaining control over your porn or sex addiction. We help ambitious men end their out-of-control sexual behavior with pornography, sex, and masturbation so that you can maximize your life, perform at your potential, and remain in control in the driver's seat, which is where you have to be in order to gain or maintain the success you want in life. I'm your host, J.K. Amazi, certified sex and porn addiction recovery coach. Welcome to the episode.
As you might know, the Porn Reboot system is built on a foundation of self-awareness. What we do in the program over time, instead of using willpower, instead of repressing or suppressing your sexual behavior, instead of distracting you from it, we teach you how to develop deep self-awareness. Why deep self-awareness? Why is it so important? Because deep self-awareness is the only thing that will allow you to become what we call an expert at yourself. When you become an expert at yourself, you don't need anyone else. And when I say you don't need anyone else, you don't need anyone else to tell you about your sexual behavior, to tell you what's wrong with it, to tell you what you need to fix, or to point out the blind spots. And why is it that so many men resonate with this? Well, men resonate with it because at the end of the day, the only reason you probably haven't reached out for help is your ego, your belief that you could do this on your own, or at least your belief that, man, I should be able to control my behavior on my own. That's why you're listening to this podcast in the first place. So, when we teach men to become experts at themselves, they become self-sufficient. And that improves your self-image because you never have to contend with the periodic belief that you need other people's help all the time for your sexual behavior. It's like you visiting with a therapist or you're working with a coach. After a couple of months or a year or two, you're like, man, I'm still working with this therapist. I'm still working with this coach. Am I making progress? Perhaps you are making progress and you're just going through a period of time where there's a little bit of a plateau, or you're doing the boring work that's required in that system. But the risk is your ego pops up and goes, well, do I really need this person's help? And then you run the risk of stepping away from it and falling back on your behavior. But when you become an expert at yourself, you don't need that. Listen, brother, I did not want to have to sit in some 12-step meeting year after year after year, telling them I had this problem that I had no control over. Like, it just didn't make sense to be doing this day by day for the rest of my life. I did not want to become codependent. Now, if that's your thing, if you're cool with, going to a group forever, maybe you find some fellowship in that group, wonderful. But I just did not want to be powerless in this area of my life. So, with that being said, today I'm going to teach you a very simple way to generate self-awareness in general, but my suggestion is that you apply this to your out-of-control sexual behavior. And I call it the 6 R's, the letter R. And those R's are recognize, release, relax, re-smile, return, and repeat. The first one is recognize. And you want to train yourself to recognize the moment that your mind has begun to move towards something that could lead to a slip or a relapse. It doesn't have to be something sexual in nature, but when you are building your self-awareness, you come to realize that in your case, you could be in bed at the end of a long day, and maybe you sleep alone, and you're not able to go to sleep, and your mind drifts to, hey, maybe I should just masturbate a little bit. Or you're bored in the middle of the day, dealing with a lot of stress, and you stand up from your desk to take a short break, and you're like, man, I need to do something that's going to relax me. So you sit down, you pull out your phone, you pull out Instagram, and the first thing your mind is attracted to is all that skin. You're immediately attracted to nudity, or some sort of nudity, bikini girls, whatever the heck's on Instagram these days. But the point of the first R, recognize, is to recognize immediately your mind has drifted. Realize that you are lost in a thought or fantasy that could turn sexual or is already sexual, that you have forgotten what you were doing in that moment. The second R is release. And what that means is to release your attachment to that thought, let's say it's a sexual thought or that sexual sensation, by simply letting the distraction be. What does that mean? It means don't give it any more attention. So, an urge has come up or an image has come up in your mind. You have a choice. Instead of distracting yourself, instead of repressing it, you simply choose to not give any more attention to that thing. And this is very important when I speak about this because some men don't believe that's possible. And that's often because you've actually never tried it. Your habitual pattern is to keep giving it attention. What happens is when the urge or the image comes up, you give it attention and then you move your attention away from it, but it comes up a second time, a third time, a fourth time. What most men do is they quickly give in. Your expectation is that the first time you release or you let the distraction just be without feeding it more, that it should disappear. But often it doesn't. It comes back a few more times. And the thought that comes into your mind is, this urge is so distracting, I might as well give into it. Or this urge is so strong and so powerful, it's going to distract me from whatever work I am doing right now. I might as well give into it. Some variation of that. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. Practice not giving it any more attention. So in your head, you can visualize this as, you know what, I'm not going to feed this image anymore. Or I'm just going to release it. Imagine it being on the top of a skyscraper with you and you're holding on to it, and just open up your hands in your mind and let the image, the urge, or the thought fall. The third R is relax. Now, you may not realize this, but there is some sort of tension or tightness in your body and in your mind that was caused the moment that sexual urge or distraction came up. But you are not aware of it. I'm teaching you how to do that. And when you go through the 6 R's, you come to be aware of these. R is relax. Actually try to relax and you'll realize, oh man, that's crazy. It's not even subtle. My body actually did tense up a little bit. I was a little bit more hunched over my phone, or there was a tightness in my back. So relax. The fourth R, I call it re-smile. I know it sounds silly, but it's to smile again. And what that means is smile in that moment. The reason I say smile is because we are often not smiling when we are acting out. We are often not smiling when we are viewing pornography. In fact, many of us can't even see how we look when we're viewing pornography, but you'd be shocked if you could see yourself. It's a very serious business that you're engaging in. The moment we smile, our biochemistry changes. We only smile at certain things. We smile at things which are funny, with things which bring us joy, things which bring something positive into our lives. Now, you might be thinking, well, pornography does bring some sort of joy, but the reality is that it doesn't. The thing that actually brings you joy is the orgasm. And maybe there's something that looks like a smile on your face when you orgasm. I don't want to think about it. But typically, you are searching for something when you're masturbating or when you're acting out. You are searching for happiness. You are searching for something that is going to relieve the pain or distraction, the boredom, the stress, whatever it is that you're running away. And when we are searching for relief, we sure as shit are not smiling. So smile right after you relax. And you'd be surprised to find that a positive feeling comes up within you that cannot coexist with your urge, with the need to search for more. The fifth R is return, or you could call this redirect. And what that means is, at this point after the smile, gently redirect your attention back to whatever it is you're doing that's important. Back to your work, back to your spouse, back to wherever you are going or whatever you are doing. And the sixth R is repeat. But let me take a step back to the fifth one, to return or redirect. I want us to emphasize one thing. A man who is rebooted is focused. He's concentrated. And one of the characteristics of rebooting is that your ability to focus increases. Even men who have been diagnosed with ADHD, when they reboot, just the art of learning to become aware of your urges becomes an exercise in focus and awareness. It's a very powerful thing, and it's extraordinary, some of the changes that have happened in men's lives. Men who are constantly distracted are suddenly able to stay focused for long periods of time. So return or redirect means come back to the work that you're doing with awareness. The sixth R is repeat, and that means you have to repeat this entire cycle as a practice. The key word here is practice. You have to do this over and over and over again. A couple of things I want to add to this, just as footnotes to the 6 R's. You're not pushing anything away. You're not forcing anything away. You're not trying to control anything. When you try to control something, what you're doing is you're using the mindset of really wanting something, like you're really craving something. You're using that to try to eliminate the craving you are feeling. What does this mean? It means that you really, really want control. I wish I could control this. I wish I could control this. I wish it would go away. And you're deeply digging, trying to find that control and willpower. But what you don't understand is that you're activating that want. I want something. I want something. And what happens if you don't get the thing that you want? Well, you become unhappy. Crazy thing is that you're hitting yourself twice. You're already wanting to engage in a behavior that you don't want. So that's the first thing. Oh, the urge came up. I want that. And it's already a problem for you. It's a negative thing. And then you try to use willpower. Where's the willpower? Why can't I control this? Where's the control? That's the second thing. And now you don't have the willpower that you need at that point. Twice, you are doubly unhappy. Okay? So my recommendation is not to use this for basic urges. There are some urges that can be handled instantaneously. Use it when you're starting to go down the path of an actual slip or relapse. And actually, in the next episode, I'm going to be giving you guys a refresher on slips and relapses. Hope you find this helpful.
I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Porn Reboot podcast. I'll speak to you later on in the week. If you found this episode helpful, here are 4 ways I can help you with your out-of-control sexual behavior for free. The first way is to grab a free copy of my book, Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men at elevatedrecovery.org, or visit the link in the description below this episode. The second way is, if you're not sure where to start, but you'd like to learn more about my team and I, if you'd like to spend time with like-minded professionals and business owners who are controlling their behavior, then join our free and confidential group, the Porn Reboot group on Facebook. There's a link to join in the description below this episode. The third way is if you need help right now because you have a burning issue, your behavior with pornography is hurting you mentally or emotionally, you're about to lose your relationship, you want to live up to your potential, be an authentic man, and free yourself from shame, guilt, and underachieving, then click on the link in the description below this episode that says free coaching call. And the fourth way is to leave us a 5-star review if you enjoy this podcast, so that we can reach more men who are struggling in silence and bring back the lessons we learn from coaching them to freedom.